My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hey y'all, it is time once again for me to chat about new releases and all my feelings about them. Remember last time, 2 weeks ago, when I filmed this, I wanted everything? That was the deal. It was like 1,000 grungy rainbows of my dreams. This week, this time, it's like, I've looked at everything and I've been like, bleh. That's how I feel. I feel the total opposite, and it's really interesting because a huge category, a huge group, a big locomotive train that a lot of people seem to be on right now is the not grungy rainbow, or the like almost rainbow missing a couple of shades, like a specific kind of rainbow. I'll talk about it more when I get into the actual palettes, because that's mostly what it is. All of a sudden I'm like, get me off this train. Please leave me at the station so I can go live my best life. I'm not interested in your primary reds and lime greens together in a gigantic palette with 1,000 eyeshadows. Anyway, I'm going to talk about that category first. There are like 10 palettes all on the same train. And then I'll talk about some things that really don't interest me at all for various reasons. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about the handful of releases that have even piqued a modicum of my interest over the past couple of weeks. This, I feel like it's going to be the most anti-haul of all of these do I want it, will I buy it / anti-haul videos that I've kind of ever done, because I am unimpressed, to say the least, with recent releases. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, first up, the first car on the non-grungy rainbow train. What is to me like the boring rainbow train? I always think of what Angelica always says, the rainbow has already been curated for you. It's a bit of a, I don't know if it's a cop-out to release a rainbow palette, because obviously people love them. So brands are doing it for a reason. The rainbow is very beautiful. Obviously it's very appealing, but I feel like it's not interesting to someone like me who is looking for a little bit more style, a little bit more of a perspective when it comes to a release. So first up, the first car in this train is this Wet n Wild palette that I feel like they could so easily have released pretty much the exact same palette, but organized it, presented it, and titled it in such a way that it didn't ring any alarm bells in terms of being a dupe for the James Charles palette. So maybe they're leaning on it being a dupe to generate sales, but I feel like they could have organized it slightly differently, or again, not titled it. I feel like, isn't the title like something to do with artistry? Like they're very clearly trying to make people think of it as a less expensive alternative to that palette, but it's just a rainbow palette, and so was that one. So was the James Charles one. And so it's just like, yeah, nobody owns that idea. It's totally not original. That one wasn't, this one isn't. And so because it's so not original, I feel like it's a bit rich to call it a dupe, just at face value. Like if they just released it at face value, it would have been a bit rich to call it a dupe. It's like, I make skirts for a living, silk skirts. This, I really do, I'm not making it up, but I make silk skirts for a living. And then if some other person comes along and is like, I too make silk skirts, I can't be like, you're duping me. It's like, I don't own silk skirts, even if I primarily make pink silk skirts, even if pink silk skirts is my signature. And then someone comes along and she's like, I too make pink silk skirts for tango dancers. I can't fault that. I can't criticize that. I don't own the idea of pink silk skirts. Even if I made pink silk skirts extremely popular in tango, and then someone capitalizes on that by making some pink silk skirts of her own, it's not an original enough idea. And the fact that I was the tastemaker, the fact that I was the trendsetter, doesn't mean that I then own the idea. So I have no time for the people being like, this is unfair, they stole the idea. But I do recognize that Wet n Wild is actually trying to capitalize on the idea of a dupe. So they weren't just trying to fly under the radar, releasing their own rainbow palette. The whole thing is a little bit weird. All I care about is whether or not I like the palette, and I don't. I had no desire to buy that James Charles palette, and I have no desire to buy this one. Speaking of the ugly rainbow train, This isn't exactly, it's this, we're getting into the like rainbow, but missing one end of the rainbow palettes, but they still all look the same as each other. The Morphe one, the Morphe 35 million or whatever it is, it's just like the 35O, but with two lime green shades that I think there is a version of a lime green eyeshadow. There is lime green makeup that has compelled me in the past. There have been times when I've seen a green similar to this and I've been like, ooh, come to mama. Like it's not like I can't love a green like this. But to me, and again, we're talking about taste here, taste. And as Joe says, you can't argue with taste. Taste is personal, taste is subjective. I'm not trying to say that this is what's true about color at large. I'm just saying that to me, in the life of my taste, which is the life I'm living, setting these very flat lime greens in this setting of very flat chili red, it literally makes me throw up a little in my mouth. I'm like, bleh. Like it just looks so icky to me. Icky, icky, icky. And that's kind of all I have to say on the topic. But I'm gonna say the same thing moving into the next couple. The new Anastasia Norvina palette, this big old jumbled palette that has like 5 greens, which are also similarly flat. They're like these flat, mid-toned, bright greens. To me, where this palette is hanging out on the scale of intensity of color is so boring. And then where it's hanging out on the scale of like from primary to grungy, like how mixed the color is with black or gray or with other colors, is so boring. And if you had those two things on a graph, like literally it's in boring town, like boring city, where it would land on that graph. And of course I want like the exact opposite. I want it to be like quite grungy and also quite sort of either super saturated or super desaturated. I don't really like that middle zone when it comes to saturation. So I want everything to be literally the opposite as the choices that they've made for every single eyeshadow in this palette. On top of that, it's so jumbled together, the organization of it. It's another car on the like icky rainbow train, according to me. And I want to get as far away from that train as possible, especially this palette. Blech. And again, I'm sure there are people for whom this would suit them. I'm sure there are people who have looks they really want to make and this is the perfect palette for it. And I'm not passing judgment on that, because I'm sure that if I saw those looks, I would be like, yeah, wow, well done. This is beautiful. It suits you. It's perfect for you. I'm really glad that you're getting your life and living your life. I feel like I've been thinking a lot lately about the fact that in my current opinion, there are two kinds of people in the world. And it's not people with good taste and people with bad taste. It's the people who recognize that taste is subjective and are able to respect that someone else's taste and their own taste might not be the same, but that doesn't make the other person wrong. That's like a whole group of people. And then the other group of people is people who think that their taste is the only taste and that anything that doesn't suit their taste is literally ugly or bad or wrong objectively, like that is the truth. I hope that you guys understand when I say that this is the ugly rainbow train, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that anyone who likes this, I can't believe I even have to give this stupid disclaimer, but at this point I've been on the internet for long enough to know that it's better safe than sorry. I think most of my subscribers, most of you guys know where I'm coming from. I'm just going to proceed. These are my opinions. That's the disclaimer. These are my opinions, and I am in the first category of people. I understand that my opinion is not fact. My feelings aren't facts. These are just my feelings. The Viseart Grand Pro Volume 3, another boring rainbow missing one end. So it's missing the purples and pinks, right? It would be a rainbow if it had the purples and pinks. And I just find it boring. I also think this is really interesting. They said in the product description of this, ultra saturated primary, secondary, and tertiary tones. And I'm always talking about how primary colors are what I don't like. I mean, I like them in a vacuum, but I'm saying that's not what I'm drawn to for me in terms of makeup. But secondary and tertiary colors, I am. But what I see here is not what I'm talking about, because I feel like what they've done is they've taken the primary colors and the secondary colors, which are primary colors, you know, blue, red, and yellow, and then the secondary colors are the ones you get when you mix those with each other. So you mix yellow and blue and you get green, and that's a secondary color. So they've taken the primary and the secondary colors, and then they've made all of them, they've made pastel versions. So they've like mixed them a little bit with white or gray, or maybe a little bit with each other to get just slightly desaturated versions of the primary and the secondary colors. But that's not enough for me. There's no grunge in that. What I'm talking about is like a plum, or I guess there's no purple in this, so that's not a good example. I'm kind of talking about like chartreuse. Chartreuse is a great example. It's like a kind of like slightly grunged up off version of yellow and green, and there isn't really a chartreuse in here. There's like a bright lime green, and there's a bright Kelly green, and then there's like a lemon yellow, sort of a soft lemon yellow, and then there's some teals, and so they've mixed green with blue, and they've made green very yellow, but they haven't mixed it both with yellow and sort of with brown to get that mustardy chartreuse color. That's what I'm talking about when I say tertiary colors. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting the language wrong. I just was shocked when I read that description, because I was like, that's a word I use all the time, and this is not that to me. Maybe I'm talking about quadrary. What would come after tertiary like colors? Quadrary, quintary colors? I'm talking about quintary colors. Anyway, this is so unattractive to me, and I totally get how it would be incredibly useful to a makeup artist, but when I saw it, I was like, yet another car on the boring, non-grungy rainbow train. Same with the Alexis Stone release. This is a little bit more pastel. I obviously am attracted to I'm talking about Alexis Stone X Makeup Revolution. I obviously am attracted to the little palette that has like the glimmery ones that you put over top, but not enough to even think 1/4 of the time about buying it. I mean, no. But then I look at the big palette and I'm like, yet another car on this sort of like gigantic one-note rainbow palette that all hangs out in the same section of the graph, on which we're graphing the relationship of colors to like grunginess and purity and pastel to saturated. It just looks like it got plucked right out of, it's like the town right next to Boring Town. It's like Humdrum Town or something. Ugh. And I kind of feel the same way about this Melt radioactive business. And again, I know that people are diehard for Melt and diehard for rainbow palettes, and some people, I've even heard some people who I watch and love and totally respect saying that they wouldn't ordinarily purchase a rainbow palette, but because they love the Melt formula so much they would consider this one. I totally respect that. If this is your jam, this is much more curated than the ones we've discussed so far. So I really respect that. And I respect why this would be much more attractive than any of those giant rainbow palettes, especially the ones in potentially untested formulas. But to me, it's a bit of a yawn. And I think the other reason I threw this in here is because I wanted to address the confusion about why they would make a palette that has the same colors as their stack. And I'm almost positive, I haven't heard anyone say this so far, so I wanted to bring it up. I'm almost positive it's because they are now in Sephora. I think that palettes are what sell really well. I think probably the stacks aren't selling as well now that they're entering more of the mainstream. They are being required to produce their makeup in mainstream form. Palettes are what's mainstream. Palettes are what people want. I think that I've heard here and there noises about Sephora requiring a certain intensity of releases, like wishing that brands or putting pressure on brands to release more frequently, more items more frequently. So Melt, probably as a result of being in Sephora, is being required to release more palettes and to release more things more frequently. And so there was probably a meeting, they were sitting there, they were brainstorming, they were like, well, what can our release be for this month or this handful of months, and they were like, let's take this stack and make it into a palette, and if we put those 4 same shades in there, then there will be 4 shades that we don't have to formulate, and that will save us time and money, and then Sephora will be happy, and then the mainstream consumers who never purchased Melt before and never purchase the stacks will have this palette. I just feel like it's not a mystery to me. People are like, why did they do this? It's so confusing. It's bumming us out. To me, it's not a mystery. It's because they are branding, not even the branding, but the identity of the brand has evolved. Okay, so that was the boring rainbow train, or that was like the flat rainbow train to boring town that I'm really glad that I'm not on. If you want to be on that train, more power to you. I love you for who you are. I just was so uninspired by all of those releases, and they were like coming out one after another. It's so funny that in the 2 weeks preceding, everybody released these sort of super grungy metallic off rainbows, and then in these 2 weeks everybody released these brightly colored matte rainbow palettes. It's just so interesting. I mean, they can't have all snuck into each other's boardrooms. They can't have all consulted with each other. I'm fascinated by, like I said in the last video, subterranean trends. Everybody's on the same train, but they don't know it. So now we're moving into what I consider to be like the most boring releases, because there's not a train. Like, in spite of the fact that all of those palettes made me go bleh, they fascinate me in their similarity. Like, the trend fascinates me. That's part of why I like doing this video so much, because it gives me a chance to talk about that. And now here are a series of releases that are out of nowhere and that I find mystifying. So the first one is this Madonna collab with Too Faced. I have literally no time for Too Faced. Like, if I did one of those videos, things I don't have time for, Too Faced would be on the list. It would be like the first thing. And I have had a history with Too Faced. I mean, I purchased that Naked Eyes palette like 3 times and panned it. That was my entire experience of eyeshadow palettes before I started watching YouTube. So I was sort of loyal to Too Faced in this funny way. But I got less and less interested in them as I learned more about makeup and my tastes evolved. And then the nail in the coffin of Too Faced for me was that thing with the cake. Nobody really talks about it anymore, but I, in my own life, cannot let it go. I cannot let that Rich Lives Matter cake go. And every time Too Faced releases something, I'm like, Jared, like, I just can't. And I know, I mean, it's funny because I've talked about ethics on my channel a lot in the past, and I plan to resuscitate that series soon, so don't worry. It's going to be in a slightly different form, but it is coming back. I don't let a vice grip on certain ethics dictate my shopping behavior. I don't have like rules that I set except for my own budget for myself, but I do kind of follow my emotions. I mean, I don't like make myself buy a thing if I just don't want to because something kind of niggles at me, you know? That's the way in which I kind of incorporate ethics currently into my shopping. In the future, maybe I'll make specific choices, but right now I'm just kind of like going where my feelings take me. And there have been so many scandals for so many people who make makeup and so many brands. And there was something about that cake. I mean, I think it was just how blatant it was. I just can't stomach it. And I also really don't like how easily they got away with it. And I understand that Jared didn't make the cake himself, but if I were him, whether I was famous or not, whether I had an Instagram channel or not, if someone showed up at my party with that cake, I would send that person away. Or I would throw that cake right in the trash, or at least smear the icing on the top. Like, you do not display that cake at your party, Jared, let alone proceed with such obliviousness, such insensitivity to the implications that you allow it to end up in an Instagram picture. Like, I just can't, I literally cannot. So when I look at this Madonna release, I'm like, the cake. And when I look at these very confusing and hideous other holiday releases, I'm like, the cake. I just can't. I think that I feel towards Too Faced the way that a lot of people feel towards Kat Von D. Like, I feel like the person who represents the brand crossed a line that they can't come back from. And I'm not saying I'll never buy from Too Faced again, although I probably won't because I never like anything that they release anyway. I just thought it was worth mentioning because I don't think that I've really discussed Too Faced except for that really funny extra spicy gingerbread thing. I haven't really come across Too Faced in such a way that there was like room for me to talk about this. I've just been keeping it to myself. The fact that I'm like, I mean, talk about bleh. That's how I feel. Also, now I kind of regret going on that tirade because there are going to be all these opinions in the comments and people like, I feel the way I feel, okay? This is just, let me just say, this isn't an essay, right? I did not plan this. This is like me talking to you guys the way I would talk to you if we were having brunch. And so maybe there are holes in my argument. Maybe I didn't cover absolutely every aspect of that situation, and I'm sure that there are a bunch of valid opinions that are different than mine. I'm not trying to present like a planned, calculated argument. I'm just trying to explain why when I see this, I'm like, the cake, blah. So, but this Madonna thing, total cash grab, feels very like the palettes themselves and everything that's involved in the packages, the mascaras, the eye things, the lip thing, like all of it's just very, 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 very boring. And it's like, would you like some incredibly boring, basically worthless to a makeup aficionado makeup with a very old picture of Madonna on the cover? Great, then spend most of $100 on it and then you can have it. And then yeah, all of these Christmas releases, I mean the first one, this weird round, is it like a deconstructed snowman? Is that what this is? Yeah, it's like a snow woman. These round palettes. It's so weird. These pictures look like they're from 1992 or something. Like, I don't know what Too Faced is doing. I do like the colors in the big one, the eyeshadow part. It's very grungy rainbow, but everything else about this release turns me off. I want to talk about the Hourglass thing. I feel like, here's why I want to talk about it. First of all, the ghost packaging is a problem. I mean, they really tried it with that clear packaging. It looks like an IKEA storage container. Like that. Super weird. I've never bought an Hourglass holiday face palette. I've never owned one. I know that there's like a huge cult following. And so take this with that particular grain of salt that I'm not in that cult. I'm not someone who collects them. I'm not someone who's waiting for the perfect one. But I kind of feel like it's played out. I feel a little bit like they might have gone 1 year too far with the same holiday release template. Hourglass, I mean. Like, I think they've done this so many times now. I feel like we were ready for something new. The blush palette, the 4-pan blush palette, for that reason really piques my interest because isn't that new? Like, they've just been releasing these 6-pan cheek ones for years and years. And so I really like, and I know that their blushes, I mean, I'm not planning to buy any of these, but I know that their blushes are renowned. I did have one, a subscriber sent one to me. It was very beautiful and it was a bit cool toned and berry toned for me, so I gave it away to my sister, but it was very beautiful. I loved the formula and I would totally love to have an Hourglass blush in that same formula in a color that suits me better. I think that they're really beautiful. So that cheek palette's lovely. I think that's a smart release. I think that's fresh. And I think that people who have purchased the 6-pan one for a couple of years in a row might be enticed to purchase the 4-pan one because it's different and it's just blushes, different shape. It's just a little bit, it's just fresher. But I was like, again, Hourglass, when I saw the 6-pan one, I just was like, really? I'm starting to feel a little bit yawn about the way that they're doing things over there. I'd like to see something exciting from Hourglass, something slightly less predictable. The Clinique Cheek Pop palette. I think I wanted to bring this up because I was so enticed by the one they released last holiday season because it's such a good deal. If you are a person who's looking for 3 new blushes or 3 Clinique blushes specifically, it's a very good deal because you're getting 3 for the price of 1, I think. I think that one cheek pop is $30 and I think that this palette, maybe they're slightly smaller, but it's also $30. And it's just well done. It's well put together. I'm very attracted to these little pans with the daisies in them. Full disclosure, very attracted. But this is all cool tones. They're very pale cool tones, which means that it would be a beautiful in theory, a beautiful blush palette for me in the abstract. I just don't like cool toned blushes, and I literally don't own any cool toned blushes. The Clinique cheek pop that I want is the one called Nude Pop. That's been on my wish list for like 4 years. I don't even know if they've been out for 4 years, but I think, you know what I mean. It's been on my wish list for all of living memory. And I do like Ballerina Pop, the very palest one in here. If there was Ballerina Pop, Nude Pop, and then some other sort of much warmer figgier one like Fig Pop or even Cola Pop, I love that one, then this would really be enticing me and be serious on my wish list. But because it's cool toned, it's an easy pass for me. Very pretty, but an easy pass. The ColourPop whatever collection, it's so weird. I feel like they kind of screwed the pooch on this one, because the picture I'll put up, which is their main publicity photo, everything looks the same. And don't get me wrong, I live for monochromatic makeup. I live for monochromatic burgundy makeup specifically. I'm all over that. So in theory, I think it's a really beautiful release, really beautiful idea. But this is so monochromatic. It's so visually monochromatic as a piece of advertising that it really makes me it makes me feel like, thank you, next. Like, it really makes me not interested. All of the blushes look almost exactly the same in this picture, and all of the lip colors, I know they're not. Like, you can see that it's nudes and burgundies sort of, but the feeling, the overall feeling of it is that it's just one big burgundy mess. On top of which, ColourPop has just released like 4 burgundy warmish palettes that all look the same. I mean, the one that went into Ulta, this whatever palette, and then there was another X's and O's, or was that the Ulta one, Happily Ever After? I can't remember. There's like all of these ColourPop palettes that literally all look the same, and they all have repeat. No, this doesn't have repeat shades in that. I appreciate that. But I think most of the other ones do. I understand that ColourPop's mission is to replicate the fast fashion model, but with makeup, and they are doing that. And so usually it doesn't mystify me. It's mystified me a little bit lately, because anyone who's paying even an ounce of attention is seeing them put out almost the exact same palette across all of these different marketing platforms. And then this release I just wonder how much attention it's really getting. In the shadow of Kathleen Light's Jaded palette and the Lilac palette, which I think is a much fresher choice than this, I just wonder how much attention this whatever collection is really getting. It's very whatever. Now we are finally moving into the releases that intrigue me in some way. And first up is the Balm Cosmetics. I forgot the name of that brand for a moment because it ordinarily bores me so much. The Balm Cosmetics has released 2 cream eyeshadow palettes, and it says that they set down. I know that that's tough to do in a palette form, because if it sets down on your eyes, then why isn't it drying out in the pan? You know what I mean? But maybe they set down quite well. I actually do have that Lancome palette that was a limited edition with Proenza Schooler. There are cream shadows in there that don't crease on the eyes. So I know that it can be done. So maybe it has been done. The Balm, I find almost universally abhorrent to my taste. I know people love the Balm, and I'm not besmirching those people. It's just that the aesthetic of the packaging is not what I want in my makeup life. It's not what gets my heart double beating. It's the opposite of that. It makes me go blah. So everything about what surrounds us, the titling, the theming, all of it is not it for me. But the swatches. I will try to put up a picture of the swatches right now as well, especially of the first, or not the first one, I guess it's the second one in their little picture, but the more neutral one. Those sparkly, creamy blacks and gray. There's like a sparkly, creamy navy black and a sparkly, creamy brownie black and the sparkly, creamy purples. And I love how this looks. If any other brand, I'm not going to buy this. Make no mistake, I'm not spending my money on this. I'm not bringing this into my home. But if a different brand had done this, it would be trying me. I even like the more colorful one, especially that dirty chartreusey one. Oh my goodness. I love what they've done here. I love what you've done here, the Balm. But it's not enough to make me want to buy it. It's just so interesting. It's very, very not the thing right now. I mean, they are on their own train. They're like driving a little choo-choo locomotive and there's no cars attached to it. They're like locomoting over the horizon in the other direction alone. And I'm kind of about that. I might take a plane and meet them at their destination. I did want to touch on RuPaul X Mally Beauty. I am not a person who buys things because I fangirl over the intellectual property or the celebrity or whatever it is. And this is no exception. I am not planning to buy this collection or buy a piece of this collection, in spite of the fact that RuPaul is a very important figure to me. Like, really, like he just holds down the fort for me as one and I mean it's not even really that much about celebrity. It's like about thought. It's about development of thought, intellect, artistry. He's just a really, really important figure in my understanding of contemporary liberation of thought. And I really cherish my personal intellectual relationship and artistic relationship with Ru. Even though we don't know each other in person, RuPaul is just, a spiritual leader to me. And that is no reason to buy makeup that I would ordinarily never buy. So I'm not going to. But I wanted to touch on it for that very reason. Literally, if there's one person in the world who would make me want to buy their makeup. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to pick like the person at the very top of the pantheon for me, it would be RuPaul. So that thing has happened where that person, the person who is that person for me, has released a makeup collection. And I'm like, still not going to buy it because I don't buy makeup for that reason. I only buy it if I really, really, really want to wear it. The Charlotte Tilbury Big Old Palette. This is so interesting. I wanted to put this in here because the one thought I had when I saw this release was if I had never started watching YouTube. And I'm not a person who didn't have a relationship with makeup before. I did. All of my 20s I spent basically as a tango vagabond. I was like dancing tango every night where I lived in Portland, Oregon, traveling all over the country, dancing tango at various festivals. I was just living the tango life. My world was this social dance. My life revolved around the practice, the spiritual practice and the physical practice of this social dance. So I wore makeup all of those years. I had maybe 3 or 4 beautiful statement NARS lipsticks and one neutral one. I had that Too Faced palette, which basically had these colors. It was like a more edited version of this palette, right? There was definitely a black. I always did like a gleaming smoky eye with a lot of black smoked out and then a really, really bright, shiny, satiny color on the inner part of the lids to make my eyes look kind of wider, further apart. Sort of like a slightly less editorial and less glittery version of what I have on today. So that was what I pretty much always did, but shifting a little bit the colors here and there. This palette would be perfect for a bunch of iterations of that and sort of a daytime version of that. This is like the grown-up version of the makeup that I used to have before I started watching YouTube and before I started getting interested in more statement makeup, more editorial makeup, grungier makeup, before I started getting interested in makeup as like a fashion statement or a style statement. I mean, it was that then. It was just a lot less robust. Like the makeup room in my brain was exciting, but it was relatively small, and now it's like this huge, now it's like a stadium. If I had just gone along like that, going to Sephora from time to time, going to the Nordstrom counters from time to time, collecting beautiful pieces of makeup here and there, living my best life, not watching YouTube, I can totally see an alternate universe in which I would have bought this palette. This is the exact palette. I would have been panning, I would have gotten down to the bottom of whatever I had been using recently. I would have sort of been looking around. I would have been very attracted by Charlotte Tilbury because I've always been someone who likes luxury things. I would have been willing to spend the $75 or whatever it is on the one palette that was going to then last me 2 years, and I would have happily chosen this one. And whether the formula is good or not, I wouldn't have known the difference. I would have been so happy with it. So almost for that exact same reason, it doesn't interest me now, because I have all of those bases covered 1,000-fold. And then what I would have wanted to be doing with my makeup then, or in that alternate universe, isn't the same as what I actually do want to be doing with my makeup. So I'm definitely not wanting to buy this and not tempted by it, but I think it's a perfect release for Charlotte Tilbury. I think it's spot on. An alternate universe Hannah would have been very happy, which is a good thing. It speaks highly of this palette. That was me speaking highly of this palette. I hope you could tell. Okay, we've come to the ColourPop Lilac You a Lot palette. I think this is very pretty. I don't own any of these ColourPop monochromatic palettes. The only one that I want is the red one, the main squeeze, that watermelon red one. I actually want that palette. I'm not really into these sort of cool, really cool toned purples like lilacs. Maybe a little bit, maybe if there were a black in there, maybe if it were a little bit more of like a smoky kind of evening situation, maybe. I like the fact that there are 4 duochromes in here. I've always thought that ColourPop needed to be putting more texture and more duochromes in these palettes. And so I think that they are moving in a good direction. I think it's very beautiful. I condone it, but I'm just not interested. I'm only interested in that main squeeze one. So someday I might order that, but I also might not. Maybe I'll never order from ColourPop again. Oh, here's something that I want, that I legitimately want. And everyone I've seen talking about this has said that she doesn't want it. The Victoria Beckham collection. I am so stimulated by this. I just think it is stunning. I think it's stunning. My only theoretical complaint is that it looks like the little eye palettes are all matte. And I tend not to get on the best with all matte stuff. But then there are these stunning looking, I don't know because I haven't tried them, stunning looking complementary, really, really shiny eyeshadows in pots. So it does make sense. It's almost as if like you get one of the little matte palettes and you use that to build the base of your look, and then you add one of these really creamy, shiny, sparkly shadows on top of it to glam it up. And that I can get behind. And actually, if I am ever gonna do an all matte look, like when I think of an all matte look that's right for me, 2 of these palettes have it. One is the red one, obviously the one called Tweed. I just think it's stunning. Who am I over here? What's going on? Because everyone I've seen talk about this has been like, it looks nice, it looks pretty, but it seems like it's not for the makeup aficionado. It seems like it's for like those other women who like buy one nice palette every other year or something. And I'm like, but it's for me too. Like I think it's so pretty. So the one called Tweed, and then the 2 neutral ones, right? Especially the more smoky one, the cool toned, more purple one. That's a matte eye look that I do from time to time, sort of a casual, chic, slightly cool, smoky eye. I think that looks really great as an all matte eye. And then a super blown out, kind of ruddy, rusty editorial, red, mustardy orange eye. I think that can look really cool as an all matte eye for me. So I take back what I said about the fact that there are only mattes in these palettes, because if you're gonna do an all matte encapsulated eyeshadow palette, to me, these are the colors that you put in it. And then this is the main thing I wanted to say, and many of you have tagged me in this, thank you. Among those shiny potted shadows, there is a black. There is a sparkly black. I'm scrolling through, I can't see like a full picture of it, but it's called Onyx. And I did see swatches of it. I looked them up. I like went to the website and everything. And I was just like, this is all just to say that I'm not planning to set aside $54 of my October budget to buy one of these little quads and test it out. They're just very much on my radar. It's a lot of money, I understand that. But I saw the Beauty News girls talking about this, and they said that they were surprised at the price point. They were expecting it to be higher. And I kind of agree with that. This is hanging out kind of in the like Laura Mercier, Bobbi Brown kind of hourglass realm, and I, like the Beauty News Girls, was expecting it to be more in the like Tom Ford Chanel realm, and I think she chose wisely. I'm glad to see that it's more, it's like it's on the line between high end and luxury rather than being like squarely in the luxury market. And I think that that's cool. I think it was a good choice. And I think it's cool that it was like two women launching it. And I think that they're putting a strong emphasis on sustainability. And I just think my interest is piqued. Of everything I've talked about today, this is the thing I'm the most into. And then next, I wanted to touch on Fenty. I also, kudos. This is how I feel about the new Fenty launches. Those little gloss bombs, those are gonna fly off the shelves. They're probably already sold out. I mean, like, I feel like they couldn't have made a better choice for a holiday release. People love to get those little minis and give them away, and all of these new colors. Like, I am so impressed by the decision-making of Fenty at this moment. And this other new release, which is the pinkish diamond veil, the hollow diamond veil. Well done. I'm not interested. I already have a diamond veil that I got for Christmas from my cousin last year, and it's got a huge dent in it and some pan, but it's nowhere near being finished. And I can't imagine this one being so different that I need them both. And I also, even though I wear that one quite frequently, I don't wear it enough and love it enough to like want a second one in a different color. So it's a no for me, but I think it's a beautiful choice. And I also really like this snow globe liquid glitter all over your body thing that they've released, obviously, because I'm all about that life. A lot of people are going to be like, get that glitter off my body. I don't want that anywhere near me. And then a lot of people like me are going to be like, get that glitter all over me. I want it all over me. That's the group I'm in. That's the train I'm on. Get on the glitter train with me. Choo choo. At this moment, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy this Fenty Diamond Globe Balm liquid. And probably not even at this point, but ever. I'm probably not going to buy it. I like it when brands are doing their thing in an elegant way. And I feel like that is what Fenty is doing right now. At the end of this video, I always like to talk about something that I've been paying attention to that I haven't really noticed discussed. Things that I'm like, ooh, I've got my eye on you, or I'm into a little trend that's popping up that people aren't really talking about in this kind of video or anywhere. And the one I wanted to mention at the end of this video is this little type of product, which is a sticker for acne that's cute. Have you guys seen this? I've seen two brands release it. One is the brand Squish Beauty that was started by the model Charlie Howard, who I absolutely love. She is just so amazing to follow on Instagram. I really, really love her message, which is about body positivity, loving yourself the way you are. And her Instagram is gorgeous, inspiring in literally every way. I'm gonna link her at the top of the description box for sure, because I wish I had been following Charlie Howard on Instagram for months before I actually was. So she started this brand Squish Beauty, and they came out with little flower-shaped acne patches. It's like you stick it, it's like a medicated patch that helps to calm your pimple, but it's like a little sticker on your face. And then another brand, Starface by Julie Schott, has come up with a hydrocolloid patch that's in the shape of a star. And it's the same idea, like a cute little star that you stick on your acne. And so you can, be looking a little like festival ready while you're taking care of a blemish over the course of through the day, rather than just like sticking on one of those gross clear ones at night and then having it breathe and grow and live its best life during the day. So I just think both of these are really cute. I'm really interested actually in Squish Beauty because I'm such a super fangirl of Charlie Howard. So I have my eye on Squish Beauty in a real way, so much so that I'm sort of vaguely considering doing dedicating a little bit of my budget to trying out a couple of their products. I think they have like a clear lip gloss. It's almost like an even cooler, cool girl version of Glossier. It's like Glossier in some ways, but sort of puts Glossier to shame in how sort of fleshy and lushy and whatever it is. Squish Beauty makes Glossier look a little bit buttoned up. I'm interested in Starface. I'm interested in Squish Beauty. I want to throw that out here. If you guys heard of them, have you been looking into them? Do you follow Charlie Howard? Do you follow Squish Beauty on Instagram? What do you think of wearing like a little star sticker on your face during the day if you have a blemish? let me know down below. And let me know down below what you think of any of these trains. Are you on the glitter train? Are you on the non-grungy rainbow train? Are you on the cream shadow train? What other trains do we talk about? Are you on the Victoria Beckham VB Beauty? Are you on the sophisticated, haute, shiny eyeshadow in a pot, matte, compact, where all the colors blend together in stripes? They look like Rothko paintings, those little compacts. They look like Rothko paintings. Maybe that's what's getting me. That is what's getting me. And I'm not ashamed of it. And that, my friends, is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I really hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself this weekend so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.